Hi everyone, welcome to Topic 3, Lecture 3, Part 6. In this session we're going to look at Hofstede's correlations. Hofstede was a chap who worked for IBM over the 60s, 70s and 80s, and he studied the cultural aspects of inside the IBM organisation, looked at the similarities and differences in cultures and came up with 4 cultural dimensions that he measured different cultures on. The first one was power distance, so how much people accept equality in power, so whether people are, if they have a high power distance score, they accept lots of inequality. A low power distance score means they expect equality. So quite a different way of looking at things. And it's also about decision making, how the power holders should be viewed, either challenged or accepted in society. The second dimension he looked at was uncertainty avoidance, how much we feel comfortable or uncomfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity. So we support beliefs and behaviours that promise certainty and conformity. So with that, so the higher the score, the more you want to avoid that uncertainty, the less you like change. The next dimension that Hofstede looked at was individualism versus collectivism. So where you have, this is the degree that the culture has allegiance to the self or to the group, or how wealthy cultures tend to be individualistic, whereas poorer cultures tend to be collectivistic. Kinda, sorta. However, colder climate cultures tend to be individualistic, whereas warmer climate cultures tend to be collectivistic. And also there is a correlation between Eastern cultures being more collective and Western cultures being less collective but more individualistic. Then lastly we have masculinity versus femininity, so how genderized our roles are. Masculine cultures tend to be more achievement, hero-oriented, assertive, work being central to status and materialistic. Feminine cultures are more a preference for relationships, cooperation, shared leadership, group decision making and a high quality of life. So they're the 4 continua that Hofstede looked at, and then what he did is he graphed all the cultures that he managed to study in the 1980s, I think in 1980. So what he came up with is this particular little graph. I mean, there are about 160 different countries that he looked at, but I've just highlighted a few here. The reason I've highlighted these is because they are cultures that we tend to have something to do with. So if we look at Australia, Australia's power distance score is actually reasonably low. So they don't like too much rich-poor in their society. Their uncertainty avoidance is kind of middling, very highly individualistic, not very collective, and slightly masculine. If we look at Great Britain, pretty similar power distance to Australia, a lot more comfortable with change than Australia though, almost as highly individualistic and a little bit more masculine. If we look at the US, more tolerance of ambiguity in the US than either Australia or Great Britain, about the same for uncertainty avoidance, just as highly individualistic, and about kind of the same for masculinity, whereas New Zealand has far more sense of fair play here, about the same for uncertainty avoidance. We are less individualistic and about the same for masculinity. Robert House updated these Hofstede's stats in 2004, and these are the stats here. So you can look at Taiwan, at India and New Zealand and see how they have changed over time. You'll note in New Zealand we've become much more comfortable with power distance. Our uncertainty avoidance has actually decreased. We've become even more collective and slightly more feminised. Very interesting.